Hey there, I'm Margaux from ServiceTitan. Today we're going to walk through the release notes for ST-61 and how they affect you as a technician on the mobile side. Today's focus is really going to be the conditional logic forms. So this is affecting those standard ServiceTitan forms, so not PDF forms. Now, I'm going to use an example by filling out a technician form that's on the My Forms tab. So these are forms not attached to a job, but this is going to relate to any form that you may already have in ServiceTitan as long as your office has put in some conditional logic. So we're going to go ahead and take a look at this form. You can see at the top, this form uses conditional logic, so it lets you know that this form has it in there. And the biggest thing to note is that you can have a really long form with a ton of questions, and if you don't need certain questions, it's going to hide what doesn't need to be filled out. So you can take a really long form, and it can be quite short if you're sending it to your customer, etc. You're only filling out the questions that need to be filled out. So for example, were the fluid levels checked during this inspection? If I said yes, questions show up related to the fluids that were changed. But if I say no, those questions are hidden. So it's this kind of logic that's going to be really helpful when you only need to fill out certain things. If it's a certain season, if it's a certain type of job that you need to fill out these extra questions to alert the office, etc. So this is going to be really helpful for those of you that need those very complicated forms to be shortened if you don't need all those questions. The next two features we're going to look at are related to estimates. So as you can see, I have a service task here on the estimate, and now you can actually select the piece of equipment you're going to service. You could already do this on the invoice saying, hey, I'm here to service this piece of equipment, but now we're allowing you to do it earlier in the stages of the estimate itself. So once you do that on the estimate level, it will also be on the invoice once you convert that estimate. So we'll go ahead and click and choose a piece of existing equipment on that location. So now this task is kind of linked to that so you can see it in the service history. The next thing we're going to look at is if your office uses those sub items. So on this menu up here, you used to already have the plus sub item, and now you can actually add material items, which is a really big deal. So now you can go in here and go into your material categories and also add those. So for those unfamiliar, what that does is it adds that sub item within that service task. So you can see all the details here, and that price rolls up to this service here, but your customer doesn't see that. So the customer only sees this main parent item that's not the sub item. So this is going to be really helpful to be able to add those materials. It's been a big ask from you guys. The next thing we're going to look at is related to those pieces of equipment that are already on the location, so that existing equipment. Last time we showed you how you can actually go in and replace a piece of equipment so you don't have to delete it anymore. It can actually live in its own area. So now you can actually filter by those statuses of equipment. So you could just look at all the replaced equipment, so the thing's no longer on the location, just to see the history. You can see everything, so you can see that full list. And then the default is to have the installed equipment only showing. So when you have a really long list of equipment, this is going to be really helpful to be able to filter what you need to see at the time. The last feature we're going to talk about doesn't actually affect you directly in the mobile app, but it does affect you when you fill out those technician forms. So those forms that are not attached to jobs, now when you fill them out, the office can set up alerts to let them know that it's been filled out. They can get an email or a text message. So now they can take action if there's something they need to do once you fill out a certain form. That's it for us today. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you next time.